So let's talk about something pretty wild. What if the internet just stopped? Like all of it. Today we're going to dive into that exact scenario, breaking down a fictional event we're calling the Great Internet Outage of 2025.
I want you to try and remember that morning, November 18th, 2025. You probably woke up, grabbed your coffee, went to check your phone like you do every single day, and nothing. Just nothing. For a huge part of the world, it was like the entire digital universe just blinked out of existence.
Seriously, 1 second everything was totally normal. The next, it felt like the digital world was just collapsing around us. And the crazy part? You weren't alone. Millions, maybe billions of us were all staring at the exact same broken screens, all asking ourselves the same thing. What on earth is happening?
So what's the first thing you do when something feels weird online? It's muscle memory, right? You go to X, Twitter, to see if anyone else is talking about it. But nope, not this time. All you got was that vague, unhelpful message, internal server error.
Okay, so no social media. Maybe a blessing in disguise, right? Time to get some work done. You go to pull up Canva to finish that presentation and bam, service unavailable. Uh-oh. Just like that, all the tools we actually need to get our jobs done, poof, gone. Deadlines everywhere were suddenly looking very shaky.
All right, fine. Forget work then. Time for a distraction. Let's fire up a game. But yeah, no luck there either. The entire gaming world got hit just as hard. You try to log into something massive like League of Legends, and all you get is that one heartbreaking word, offline. And this is the moment the true scale of the problem really starts to sink in. Because it wasn't just about social media or getting work done. Even the most powerful, cutting-edge AI, stuff like ChatGPT, were completely unreachable, access denied. See, at this point, you're not asking, is my internet broken? You're starting to wonder if the internet is broken.
And you just gotta love the irony here, right? The one place on Earth everyone rushes to complain that other things are down was also down. It's the perfect, almost funny example of how tangled up and interconnected everything really is. But then, in the middle of all that digital chaos, a clue started to surface. People began noticing this common thread, a single digital fingerprint left at the scene of every single crime.
And that clue? It was this weirdly technical message. Across all these different sites, people were seeing a 502 bad gateway error. Now, what that basically means is, hey, the problem isn't your computer or your internet connection. It meant that dozens of different sites weren't all failing on their own. No, this pointed to one single, massive point of failure. Something huge was broken.
And so, where did that digital fingerprint lead? Well, it pointed directly to one company. A company that, for most of us, operates completely behind the scenes. Kind of like an invisible gatekeeper for a massive chunk of the internet.
So let's pull back the curtain and talk about Cloudflare. Who are these guys? Honestly, the best way to think of them is like the internet's backstage crew. They're the security guards at the door, the traffic cops directing all the cars, and the super fast delivery service all rolled into one. You almost never see them, but they are absolutely essential to making sure the websites you use every day are fast, stable, and safe.
And I'm not exaggerating when I say their job is critical. They act as this giant shield protecting websites from cyber attacks. They're like a shock absorber, so when a site gets a massive flood of traffic, it doesn't just crash. And hey, you know those little "I'm not a robot" checkboxes? Yep, that's often them too. They are literally the invisible scaffolding holding up a huge part of the web.
So, this is the big question, right? How did one company having a bad day turn into everybody having a bad day? Well, it's all about the domino effect. It's incredible how one single failure can topple so much of the internet we depend on. Okay, here is the absolute best way to picture this. Think of the internet like a power grid. Your house, that's your favorite website, X, Canva, whatever. And then, way off somewhere you never think about, is the power plant. That's Cloudflare. See, you don't think about the power plant. You just flip a switch and expect the lights to turn on. But what happens when that one single power plant goes dark? Exactly. The lights go out for the entire city.
And that power plant analogy? It's exactly what happened that morning. And it happened fast. Just look at this timeline. At 6 a.m. Eastern, the first little blips of trouble start showing up. By 6:15 a.m., that's just 15 minutes later, reports of outages are exploding all over the globe. It wasn't until around 7 a.m. that Cloudflare finally came out and said, yeah, we see it too.
And get this, here's the final layer of irony. You know Down Detector, right? The website everyone goes to see if other websites are down? It was down too. And why? You guessed it. because it also runs on Cloudflare. You literally couldn't check what was broken because the thing you used to check was also broken. It's just wild. So, once the dust finally settled and things started coming back online, what's the big lesson here? Well, this wasn't just some random glitch. It was a massive wake-up call, a global stress test that revealed a pretty fragile and kind of scary truth about the world we've built. And that truth is this. The web we use every single day is way more centralized than we think it is. We've built this incredible, sprawling digital city, but it turns out the whole thing is resting on just a few very fragile pillars. I mean, a tiny number. The reality is that almost everything we do online funnels through a handful of massive companies, and that creates these enormous single points of failure. If one of them trips, the whole internet stumbles. You know, there's this myth about the internet, right? That it's this huge, decentralized network that's impossible to take down. And, I mean, technically the idea of the internet is like that, but the reality of the internet we actually use day to day, that's a totally different story. It's a system that completely depends on a few of those key power plants. And if we ever needed proof, well, the great outage of 2025 gave it to us loud and clear. Which leaves us with a really big question to think about, doesn't it? Our entire world is connected, sure, but who's actually holding the keys to the kingdom? That outage was a stark reminder that the answer isn't you or me. It's a handful of invisible giants that, until that one morning, most of us had probably never even heard of.